In today's economy, it seems like everyone's doing kitchen remodels, and I've been getting a lot of calls. Well, how can I do a cost-effective distressing on existing cabinets? And the close-ups I showed you earlier, I mean, it's a technique that I came across. Um, it's actually a pretty simple technique. And what I found is a combination of a couple of products that work pretty well together. And through a blog or a forum that I frequent a lot, I had the help of quite several artists. We were trying to match a finish that was on a credenza that came from Italy. And what we discovered was, we did discover how the process was done. But what I had for a budget, I had to come up with something that was relatively quick, easy. And because of the people at the full forum, several artists were involved, and we all put our heads together, and we came up with a couple of solutions. One was with a epoxy, and of course you can't do that vertically. You can do it on a flat surface, but on a cabinet you won't be able to do it. So I was working on a canvas piece, and I wanted to get a heavier paint on my canvas, and I went to the heavy body acrylics. Well, as I was working with that, I thought, well, what about a gel? So what I did is I went to a gel medium, and I combined it with a paint that's made by Full Effects. It's called Set Coat. And what I discovered was the bonding properties between both products was incredibly unbelievable when it came to an existing finish. But I would recommend priming with a bonding primer. Take your primer to whatever color you want. And the finish is a distressed finish. And believe it or not, this is a really quick way of doing this. And I mean, it's a little tedious. I mean, you got to paint the gold, and then I'll show you how I tape that out and stuff. It's pretty simple. If you know how to do it, if you just put your mind to it, it's not hard to do. It's not time consuming. It only takes like a few minutes to tape some stuff out. So what I did is I highlighted the panel in gold, and then I taped the gold out, and then I applied the medium that I have on here. Now what's amazingly unbelievable about this finish is it's got a really old distressed look. I mean, it looks like layers. It's everything that the designer wanted, in the finish. And as I was experimenting with the finish, I found that this stuff, I mean, it's on there. It's not coming off. It does remain a little bit soft, but over time it'll get harder. And then, of course, there's a top coat that goes over that. So what I'm going to show you is how I prep doors and how I mix these mediums together and how I put this on as an application. And I think you'll be, pretty impressed with, how this goes. This is just only one coat, and it's unbelievably quick. So with that in mind, we'll go back and I'll show you, a step-by-step kind of, thing of how I did it. And this is kind of my way of giving back, and you'll see that it's a pretty easy finish. And we'll get started on it. This piece here I'm working on, this is actually it's a inspiration by Hugh Greer that he did, and I'm just kind of ad-libbing with it. So, but this is kind of where this came from, was going to a gel or a heavy body acrylic paint, and being that was involving too much mixing and things like that, I had to have the bonding properties on the cabinet finish. So set coat is a very good product when it comes to bonding, and like I said, it's, it works amazingly well. So with that in mind, I'll show you the step-by-step here, and hopefully it'll help you. And now mind you, this is not a high-quality cabinet finish that you would do in a spray shop. Of course, if you want something like that, then that's, that takes several layers. But if you just want something quick and easy for, a bathroom cabinet, or something at home that, you don't want to spend a lot of money on, you just want to do it yourself, I was just totally blown away by how this works and how authentic it looks. So we'll get back to you, but you'll see, it's relatively a nice finish. Okay, here's the medium. It's golden. This one here is the semi-gloss. And like I said, it doesn't matter whether you use the semi-gloss or the matte. You mix them together because you're going to put a top coat over top of it anyway. That's going to take care of the final sheen. So basically, all I do is you just get a palette knife and pull it out of. As you can see, I already got some mix there, but I'm going to show you. You pull it out. Put it on, lay it on your, I'm using a piece of styrene board as my palette. And all I'm doing is I'm just reaching in my bucket of paint of the black, and I'm just mixing it up, putting it on there, and this is basically called using an open palette. I'm just, mixing it up to where I get a nice pile of it going here to work with. And the gel medium, the matte medium will dry a little faster than the semi-gloss, but you do have time to work with it, but it does set up kind of quick. And once I get some mixed up, I clean my brush off, using my palette knife to get the excess off. And don't be afraid to mix it up. You need quite a bit of it, for the size of the door that I'm working with. And you want you want it opaque, but you don't want it runny with paint. I mean, you want it to, you want it to hold shape. So you put too much paint in it, it's not going to hold its shape. So you have to pick up more gel medium, mix it in there. It's not rocket science. And believe it or not, this stuff will bond really well. I mean, I was amazed at how well it bonded. And most of you who know me out there, I'm an advocate when it comes to using primers, and bonding agents and stuff like that. So I'm going to be mixing this, and I'm just going to mix it as I go. Now, and then I'm just going to show you how I brushed it on. All you're doing is you just put, you're brushing it on where you don't want to think about it. Just just kind of put it on. Think of how distressed furniture looks. And I always on this particular one I want my inside my grooves to be opaque. You just gotta think about how furniture wears. Okay, of course, the first thing you got to do is you got to make sure you sand the surface. Otherwise, you got to have some tooth to get the product to bond to it. And the set coat made by Faux Effects, usually what I would use is a set coat clear, which is it's got a real good bonding property, and I've never had any problem with it bonding to the surface. But in this case here, what I'm using is a medium by Golden, and it's regular gel, matte, or semi-gloss. I kind of use both because I'm going to top coat this with a acrylic wax when I'm done with all the distressing. And what I found, amazingly enough, was a combination of this gel medium and set coat is enough bonding properties that, I mean, it just really amazed me how well it bonded to the surface, because the piece that I'm trying to match, the actual wood has this color on it. So why would I want to prime it and have to go through the hassle of matching the color when I can use this color as part of the distressing? So with that in mind, basically what I did is I used an open palette and I mixed the set coat paint with the gel medium, and it mixed very well together. So with doing that there, what I did is I went, and this has a couple of panels on here, and you can see, and I sanded it real good, and I taped it out with 1-inch tape, and then I applied a gold paint made by Ronan, and just to give it some highlight, because on the credenza there is some gold on there, and all these cabinets are supposed to do is complement the piece, and it had a real heavy finish on it. I mean, it was really thick, so I wanted to create a real heavy paint. And with the gel medium and the set coat together, it does create a pretty heavy paint. So all I did is I taped this out, painted the gold, and what we're going to do now take the tape off, and I'm gonna retape the gold, but I'm gonna tape it so that you know, so I don't get any of the heavy paint on there, because you know that part I don't want to cover the gold. You know, I actually want the gold to come through, and when I sanded this, I didn't sand real hard on the gold, because I actually, when you tape this out and put your paint on and then pull your tape, what's going to happen is the tape is actually going to pull some of that gold off, and it's going to give it a distressed look, you know, which, you know, you're getting, you know, you're basically getting two effects with one process. So as, you know, as I pull this out, you know, you can see how well it's sanded. I mean, it's sanded pretty good, you know, and I didn't want to sand through the edges too much, because I didn't want that, that wood, that white wood, this is birch is what it is, to come through. So, the other thing about taping this out, it actually acts like a tack cloth too, and takes a lot of the dust off. But I'm still gonna, you know, wipe this down to get some of the dust out of the corners, and you know, clean it up a little bit. And you know, the thing with this Ronin, these acrylics, is they dry so fast that you know, I mean, you can get quite a bit done in a short period of time. So I'm going to show you how I tape this out, and it's a real simple process. Okay, this here is like 5/16, and this is like 7/16. You know, so you got like 12/16, 3/4 of an inch. So you want to use at least 1 inch tape. Well, if you account for the roundness of it, you should be able to cover both these strips with one piece of tape. And I'll show you how I did that. Take your tape and you line it up, you know, real simple. You line it up on your edge to where it's, you know, it's nice and even. Use your fingernail to push it down, and simple as that. And then what you do is you take your fingers and you run it across to make sure it stays, you know, round. You don't want it to wrinkle on you. And once you push it in, don't push it flat onto the surface of your board, because then when you try to tuck it in, it's going to, it isn't going to pull in because it's stuck to the board. So you want to cut your 45-degree angle, like so, and then take your thumbnail and crease it into the groove, and cut that little piece out. Like that, simple. Alright, now you start in the center and use your fingernails. This tape is not touching that board. And you work it over, and then you pull it across like this. And see how that tightens right in there just like that? See, and it's perfectly covered. Alright? Take your knife and use a new blade. You know, this is an alpha knife, it's a snap-off blade, and these blades, believe it or not, when you're cutting tape, will wear out pretty quickly. So every once in a while you want to snap off the little end and use a fresh piece. You don't have to cut real hard. All you have to do is just score the tape. You know, so you run it in your edge, and as you're cutting, watch the blade. Don't watch where you're going or where you've been, watch the blade. And you'll be able to cut that right along that groove, like that. Now, this piece should cover that piece without having to use another piece of tape. So you use the factory edge, pull your tape, and go across this way, so that way, you know, it ain't gonna curl on you. And as you pull it up, now you use that factory edge here to tape off this side. sure you get it lined up straight. You don't want to have to cut any more than you have to. See? Same thing here. You roll over and just from the center out and just catch that edge. Okay, now you're 45. You know, you don't want to push down and stick that tape there. All you do is stick your sharp blade in there, pull it across, cut it at a 45. Okay, now you roll your tape over and work it from the center out. And then push it in your edge. Now there's two grooves here. You know, it's one here and one here. You want to push it flat first, and then just use your fingernails. You know, I got both fingernails. I'm putting one here and one here. I'm just pushing it in the groove. See how that matches perfect? You're done. You know, there's so many people who make this difficult. It's unbelievable. You know, they want to use 2 pieces of tape and everything else. But if you just use your, you know, if you just look at something and you know, take a ruler and measure and think, well, geez, you know, I mean, 1-inch tape should fit perfectly if I cut it in half. Well, there you have it, you know. So you take it, you know, and of course you tuck your corners in, cut your little tab off. This corner here you don't need to worry so much about. The same thing here. You know, I need to finish this. So tear off another little piece, line it up, tuck it in. You know, and with this corner, you want to, you know, remember, you don't want it to roll over. You push it over, and you can see right here where you need to start your cut. Stick your knife in there and pull away. Don't push down, pull away. And with a sharp blade, it should cut pretty easily. Simple. Push this side down, put it in the groove. Same way over here, do this side first and then do this side. Score it. Pull the little tab off, same thing here. A little bit of excess. Roll it, tuck it, center out, and then go back this way. Score it in the groove. Pull it out, perfect. You can use this piece to finish this edge. Tuck it, roll the edge, and you can see where you're catching the corner and everything here. Cut it. This side here is not really that important, that tab there. But you just want to make sure that you roll it over, tuck it on that side, score it, pull your little tab. Same thing here. And sometimes you may end up with a little sliver there you may have to trim out. But if your blade is sharp enough, new blade, and pull that little piece out. And some of this stuff is so amazingly easy that a lot of people make it difficult. Of course, I'm using the orange core full finishing tape. I don't own stock in this stuff, I buy so much of it. You know, and doing, you know, this kind of finish, I mean, you know, right now the way the economy is, people want to redo their cabinets, but they don't want to spend a fortune, you know, of course. You know, so you got to be creative. You got to come up with ways to where you can give them what they want and still not kill yourself on time, and you know, and then be cost effective as well. It's not brain surgery, you know, it's just, you just gotta, you know, just think of it simply and quickly. See, oop, I didn't cut that yet. Guess it would help, huh? Need to cut it. I did get a little crease right there, but that's okay. Hopefully. I'm only human. You score it. Most people, when they try to cut tape, they look at where they're going or where they've been, you know, not watching what the blade's doing. You know, you're gonna end up spending a lot of time on tape and doing it that way. And I actually learned how to tape from a body shop. Worked at a body shop where one of the other amazing steps in my life. So anyway, see how fast this is, how simple. You know, you don't need to spend a lot of time on this. You know, I am off a little bit on that end. That's probably because the door is warped. That's not my problem. And you know, I'll trim that little piece out. You know, I mean, it's a stress finish, so it doesn't have to be perfect, you know, by any means. You know, now, if you were doing, you know, a high gloss lacquer finish, and of course this system, you know, I mean, the taping will work, but you definitely don't want to try and do a distress finish and using a high gloss on it, you know, because it just doesn't look right for one thing. Okay, there you go, simple. I'll tape the rest of this out and then I'll show you how I mix the medium and slop it on the door. Yeah, basically that's all you do.